Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to begin with our final panel discussion. And on that note, as we all know, the theme of this particular panel discussion is on safe roads, safe India, the outlook, opportunities, as well as the way ahead. As we're about to begin, firstly, I'd like to once again invite on stage our panel chair, Dr. Jayjeet Bhattacharya, Partner, Infrastructure and Government Services, KPMG. May I please invite Dr. Bhattacharya on the dais to please take his seat. And moving on, I'd like to also invite our panel members on the dais. Firstly, may I please invite Mrs. Sonia Sethi, Transport Commissioner, Motor Vehicle Department. Let's have a warm round of applause to also welcome her on the dais. An officer of the Indian Administrative Service, IAS, the 1994 batch. Her current assignment is as a Member Secretary, Maharashtra State Water Supply and Sewerage Board, and her areas of specialization also include infrastructure project development, especially in the public-private partnership space. We'd also like to invite our next speaker for the session, Mr. S.M. Ramchandani, Joint Managing Director of the MSRDC. Can we also have a warm round of applause for Mr. Ramchandani? In a career with the state government spanning 33 years, he has been associated with various organizations working on the infrastructure development with the pride of direct association with the public projects. We'd also like to announce that our speaker, Mr. Milind Barambe, who's a Joint Commissioner of Police, couldn't join us due to last-minute exigencies. But without any delay, I'd also like to invite our next speaker for the session, Mr. M.M. Kulkarni, Director, National Safety Council, India. Can we have a round of applause to please welcome Mr. Kulkarni as well? A very known expert in the field of industrial safety, health and environment. He comes with an experience of more than 30 years, and he's also presented a number of research papers both at the national and international conferences, seminars as well as workshops. Our next speaker for the session is Professor Dr. Satish Dharap, who is in charge of the Trauma Service, Sion General Hospital, and President of Indian Association of Traumatology and Critical Care. So let's have a huge round of applause to welcome him as well. He's a professor of surgery and in charge of the trauma service at the Lokmanya Tilak Municipal Medical College and General Hospital, and he's taken keen interest in establishing treatment protocols for the management of trauma patients. Our final speaker for the session is Mr. Piyush Tiwari, founder and CEO, Save Life Foundation. So let's have a round of applause to welcome him as well. Save Life Foundation was founded in the year 2008 and is an independent and non-profit organization that's focused on reducing road crashes and also improving trauma care across the developing world. So while this is our final panel discussion, can we have a huge round of enthusiastic applause from the audience to welcome our wonderful speakers here. And let's get started with the proceedings. I'd like to hand over the session to Dr. Jayjeet Bhattacharya. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, and welcome back. I think we had two very good and interesting sessions in the morning. And I guess after navigating through the traffic jams in the lunch counter, you have successfully survived to attend the next session. So I really appreciate that. What we plan to discuss in this particular session, as you would have seen from the agenda, is the safety issues and the policy matters around safety issues, the regulatory issues, and what kind of planning that needs to go in to make our roads much safer. Again, without much ado, I'll start by taking the inputs of the panelists, and we've got a very eminent set of panelists, as in the previous two sessions. I'll start with Mrs. Sonia Sethi on her views on safety and the policy issues around that.
Thank you, Jayjeet. Good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure being here. I think the topic of today's discussion is not new to anyone. We're all subject experts sitting here. Primarily from the perspective of the Motor Vehicle Department, I'd like to just make a few remarks and then open up for further discussion. I think we all know the statistics, but just to sort of give focus to this discussion, speaking of Maharashtra, the state that I look after, on an average, I'm not going to go into detailed statistics, but on an average, we register about 2 lakh vehicles every year, and almost the same number of driving licenses issued for motor vehicles. If you see the growth of vehicles in the state, the figures that I have in front of me say that in the last 10 years, I think we've had a growth of about 142%. Basic analysis of road accidents and hazards to road safety I think out of the three basic or fundamental reasons that are pointed out, two I think pertain primarily to the department that I look after. One, of course, is with my colleague Mr. Ramchandani. Typically road accidents are attributed to driver negligence, technical faults in vehicles, or condition of roads. Out of which, it is my prime responsibility to look at the first two aspects. I would like to, share with the audience here that we in Maharashtra have taken up two very, very ambitious programs whereby we wish to bring more computerization, more objective and scientific interventions in the issuance of two areas which are directly related to drivers and the vehicles. The first initiative that I wish to share with you is about issuing driving licenses, because I think that's where the story about road safety starts from. All of you are probably familiar with the process changes that we have introduced in the form of online applications. I know there are some, problems associated with that. However, it is a marked improvement from the earlier manual process. But processes apart, the whole system of granting licenses is in the next year or let's say couple of years, it's going to undergo a complete transformation. In the state of Maharashtra, we work with a system of about 15 RTOs and 35 deputy RTOs. What our plan is to link every office of our department with one computerized driving test track. The first one is already operational in Pune. We've already, we are in discussions with expert organizations like CIRT, and we are preparing the DPRs to actually go ahead with making Maharashtra the first state to have 100% computerized driving test tracks. And this very, very ambitious program, we wish to pursue it on a public-private partnership mode. The idea is that from the time of issuing licenses to drivers, we need to make the system as stringent, as objective, and as scientific as possible. So that's one major initiative that I hope to push through. The second one, relating to technical faults in vehicles. All passenger vehicles are supposed to undergo fitness tests, and up till now we were doing it manually. I'm happy to announce that last week we inaugurated the first mechanized inspection and certification center in Nashik, and whereby we actually are entering a system whereby the whole process of giving fitness certificates to vehicles will be done very scientifically, very objectively, in a very mechanized way. So we also then wish to sort of extrapolate this initiative to the entire state, and again link up all our offices to at least one INC center, where the annual inspection of vehicles will also now henceforth not be done manually but through this mechanized system. And these INC centers also are proposed to come up on PPP basis. So I think some of the other interventions of the government I will probably leave for the next round of discussions. But these two initiatives I wanted to share with you, because we'll be very enthused about it, and I would be happy to hear your inputs on this, because these are the two top priorities in terms of conducting driving tests and ensuring fitness of vehicles. And I think that would be perhaps a very, very important contribution from the department to the aspect of the whole subject of road safety. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll move on to Mr. Ramchandani for his views on road safety.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bhatta sir. MSRDC, as everybody knows, is presently dealing with the road development, maintenance and operation of various important roads in the state of Maharashtra. That way we have about 2.5 lakh kilometers of road in our state, but majority of it is maintained through local Zilla Parishad and Public Works Department. Only a few important corridors are available for maintenance and upkeep with MSRDC. Now, Mumbai-Pune Expressway, as everybody knows, is a very high volume traffic corridor. It has got high speed and many features which were not available on our roads previously before this road was constructed. National highways are part of national highway network around 133 kilometers between Satara and Kagal is with MSRDC, and we are having another Mumbai-Pune national highway with us. Now these roads are constructed way back in 70s, and we could only make it 4-lane very recently. These have added a lot of safety features into our road network, but a lot requires to be done. What we have done on these roads towards safety is, we have provided brick and wire fencing in the median on the expressway, so that the vehicles don't cross over into the opposite corridor accidentally because of some driver error or whatever. Similarly, we have provided a trauma care center near Ojharde, which is in kilometer 79 of the expressway. The trauma care center building is ready. We have got 2 helipads which are ready there, so that we can airlift the accident victims to the nearest hospital as early as possible. Then for the accidental rock fall, we have provided Garware wire ropes, which will prevent any accidental fall of rock on the expressway while the change of season is there during monsoon and all those periods. Now all these hazardous things we are trying to contain by providing a lot of traffic discipline onto the road. We had a very good program on Friday itself, where we have roped in the Flora Foundation so that the driver lane discipline is ensured on our expressway. Because most of the time we will find that all 3 lanes are occupied by trucks in some sections where the speeds are lower than normal. Now with all this, there was a recent direction from the Supreme Court, where they have given some suggestions about 12, 13, 14 of them, in which the important thing that they have said is there should be a ban on alcohol sale on state highways and national highways. Now this is something where we have to provide, we have to give the NOC for establishment of anything on the expressway or on the national highway, and for that the coordination with other departments is also necessary. The important other direction that they have given is removal of hoardings and objects that obstruct driving and distract the drivers. You will find on our expressway a number of hoardings have come up recently, and they do distract. So this is what important directions have been given, and we are on a fast track mode to see that these are implemented as fast as possible. Now, as far as safety on roads, we are trying to ensure by quick response vehicles under procurement. Then ambulances, we already provided 4 on our expressway, which take around 10 to 20 minutes to reach any point along the expressway. Now this is the effort that MSRDC has put in, and we do expect a lot of discipline from the drivers in trying to maintain the speed limits as have been specified on the expressway or onto the national highway. Now, as far as IRC guidelines are concerned, all IRC guidelines were followed while constructing and developing these national highways and expressways. While the expressway was constructed when there were no guidelines for expressway, but still we could follow some international guidelines and could do it in the best manner in those years of 97 to 2000. There are a number of guidelines which possibly I would like to just show for demonstrating to the audience here as to what are the things that have come up and are available for reference. So I am carrying some 4 of them. This is as back in 1984, this road safety workshop had happened through IRC, and they have given a lot many suggestions in this which are relevant both to the users and also to the road developers. Now this was when the fatalities on our roads were only 20,000 per year in the entire country. Now that has grown to more than 5 times. So this is in 84. Now we have got a road safety code which is available, which is the IRC special publication 44. This is the outcome of a deliberation of at least 42 members from all over the country. There are guidelines for road safety during construction. Now there are 2 ways. One is when we construct the road, many things are required to be done very carefully so that accidents don't happen because of the construction machinery on the road or the construction labor moving on the road. So this gives those guidelines. This is another publication which is called SP55. So 44 55 and then 88, very easy to remember. So this is one manual on safety audit on road design. So all these important documents are being used for construction of road in not only in Maharashtra but all over the country, and guidelines are available, most exhaustive guidelines are available, and we have been following this or giving our people as safe roads as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ramachandani. Move to Dr. Satish Dharap, who specializes in post-trauma care. I will look forward to your views, Dr. Dharap.
Good afternoon. My role actually comes after the accident occurs, and let me put it very clearly that what prevention can do, I cannot do. Having said that, crashes do occur, and you need to have a system for care of the patient. It starts right from access to care, like somebody making a phone call and reporting that accident has occurred. Then pre-hospital care, which consists of an ambulance with trained paramedic, which evacuates the victim from the site of the crash to the nearest hospital. In the hospital, generally what is done is triage, that is categorize the patient as per the patient's needs. And then some patients may have to be transported to a specialized trauma center. So even in the hospital, the phase is immediate life-saving steps. And then typically a patient who suffers crash has multiple injuries. There may be a brain injury requiring care by a neurosurgeon, limb fractures requiring care by an orthopedic surgeon, abdominal injuries requiring intervention by a general surgeon. Patient may have multiple problems. He may have kidney failure, may require dialysis, intensivist. So it requires a coordination among different specialists, and that itself is a task, particularly when the injuries are life-threatening and multiple. After saving patient's life, rehabilitating the patient to his work is another task, and many times paramedical experts are required for that. A patient who has sustained head injury may not be in his full senses, so getting him back to his own senses and rehabilitating him so that he can go to his occupation or maybe suggest him a change of occupation is a challenge. A person who has lost his limbs, to make him stand again is a challenge. So today what we need is development of trauma care as a system, right from pre-hospital care to rehabilitation. And that is how an ideal system should be. Today in our country, we have it in patches. In fact, if you see medical fraternity, we have enough knowledge and technical expertise as far as individuals are concerned. We have wonderful neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, etc. But yet, the challenge remains to bring them all together and make them save and make them do the best so that patient can be put back on his feet and back to his work and back to his family is really a challenge. So having worked in this field for so long, I really feel the thrust has to be on prevention, having the experts, having the hospital. Of course it is always needed, but what prevention can do. And today what we see in our country, the incident which happened last week just pains us. A person who is so educated, so knowledgeable, still should indulge into an activity which is bound to cause a crash. It's really saddening. Otherwise what we say is 3 E's of prevention: education, enforcement and engineering. So I think that is what will be my message, that we should try to prevent it as much as possible. When we talk of developed countries, they have prevented it to a large extent. And today, in fact, in India, if we see statistics, for less severe injuries, we have far higher mortality than the developed countries. So I think the challenge which needs to be faced is prevention, along with the development of medical facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dharap. I think those are very important messages. With that, I'll move to Mr. Kulkarni, who's the Director, National Safety Council India.
Very good afternoon to everyone, and I would like to congratulate Economic Times for organizing this summit. It's a very relevant, very timely one. National Safety Council, as probably many of you are aware, was set up by Ministry of Labour in 1966. So we have completed 50 years, rather this is the 50th year running, and it was set up basically to promote safety and health. That time it was set up basically to promote safety and industrial safety. And now, but the demarcation is very thin as regards industrial safety or the general safety. So what we rather feel that all of the workplaces, whether it's a roads, whether it's a industry or whether anywhere, people are working as a workplace. So we try to promote safety and health in every aspect of life. So we have number of activities through which we try to promote safety and health. We organize training programs, we organize conferences, seminars. We have number of publications, like we have a safety calendar. Probably many of you must have seen it. It's a depiction of safety issues through cartoon-based illustrations, and very well-renowned cartoonists like R.K. Lakshman used to draw it for us. Mr. Maya Miranda used to draw it for us. So eminent cartoonists drew these illustrations for us, and we try to depict a particular road safety issue. We have 6 calendar cartoons, 6 pages rather, and 1 page is devoted fully to the road safety issue. So every year we try to depict one particular issue. For example, drinking and driving, then two-wheeler safety. We have seen that many accidents do take place because two-wheelers drive on the footpaths and all. So that we try to depict, and message goes that prevent these things. So likewise, every year since 1979, we have been bringing out this calendar. So road safety is depicted among this calendar. We have number of posters, colorful posters, which depict these road safety issues. We also undertake number of projects, national as well as international also. In fact, in road safety, we have been working very actively since 1995. We initiated a project called APPEL, that is Awareness and Preparedness for Emergencies at the local level. And all of we are familiar that transportation is a part of any emergency. So we have started working on road safety issues right from 1995. In fact, we did one complete project called Trans-APPEL, that's a transportation related emergencies, how to take care of it. And we did a number of training programs and conferences in different parts of the country. So how to prevent accidents involving hazardous materials, specifically hazardous chemicals. And we had trained even traffic police also. All the related stakeholders were trained under this particular project. Since 2003, we have taken up this road safety initiative, and we are promoting this road safety campaign of Government of India. So you are aware that first or second week of January is celebrated or rather promoted as Road Safety Week in India. So we bring out number of promotional material like posters, banners, then information booklets on defensive driving and many other booklets which are written by eminent experts in this field, and these are made available to our members. In fact, we have more than 6,000 corporates of members, and we have very organized approach towards road safety. We promote this road safety among these corporates, and which in turn promote to their families and their customers or their suppliers. So this is a kind of chain effect. So when we involve our corporates, ultimately it reaches down to the lowermost level. So these are various ways through which we try to create awareness on road safety issues. I think for the time being this is good enough. Then I think once we enter into discussion, I'd like to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Kulkarni. With that, I'll move to Mr. Piyush Tiwari, who is the founder of Save Life Foundation, who has made, whose interventions have led to significant policy changes, which has contributed to more lives being saved. So, over to you, Mr. Tiwari.
Thank you. Fortunately, I arrived fairly early for this program, and I've been hearing what the panelists have to share about road safety and different causes, solutions, so on and so forth. If I can just for a minute summarize what we've heard so far and then come to the point that I want to make. So we've heard that broadly there are 4 reasons why India has the highest number of road accident deaths in the world. We've had 1.2 million deaths in the last decade alone. So the first issue is how people drive. Road user behavior is what we've heard a lot of people talking about. Now, why is it that people drive the way they drive in India? It is because the filtration process, what actually allows them to come onto the road, is fairly compromised. I'm glad to hear comments of Ms. Sethi here about the technology intervention and things that are being done to improve the licensing, but there are still many parts of the country where licenses can be home delivered without actually having to go to the RTO. So that's one huge issue that's leading to untrained drivers coming on our roads. Untrained, qualified, uncleared. The second broad issue that we heard about is of enforcement. That enforcement is weak, or that there needs to be a lot more enforcement. But enforcement is marred by 2 basic issues. One is capacity constraints. You can't possibly have so many policemen on the road all the time. And the second is corruption. There is very visible, clear corruption in enforcement. How do we deal with that? The third issue that we spoke about today was around road engineering and design and vehicle engineering and so on and so forth. Now, India, like Dr. Soy mentioned in the morning, we don't follow what is called the safe system approach. Of course, there are IRC guidelines, showed a number of documents that are various guidelines, but where is the accountability? If somebody does not follow those guidelines, where is the accountability system to make them accountable for that, not following those guidelines? Our vehicles, last year it was revealed that most of our entry-level cars and other vehicles don't meet minimum safety standards prescribed globally and by the UN. And finally, we heard from Dr. Saab that trauma care or lack of it leads to a number of deaths. So four broad issues. The point that I want to make is that the first issue, road user behavior, licensing and training, it largely falls under the ambit of the transport department. Enforcement falls under police, and parts of it again come back to the transport department. Road design and engineering falls under 5 to 6 different departments, from municipality roads to PWD to state highways to national highways. There are multiple agencies involved. Vehicle engineering falls under Ministry of Heavy Engineering. There are various other organizations involved. And trauma care comes under Department of Health. So we have 7 to 10 different actors who are responsible for road safety in India. And most of them, in many parts of the country, work in silos. There is no way that they work together and coordinate, and there is nothing that is making them do that. So one of the biggest challenges that road safety in India is facing is that there is no framework under which all these different actors can come and work together in a cohesive, concerted, mission-oriented fashion to say, okay, fine, next decade is giving us an opportunity to save 1 million lives, and let's work together to do that. There is no framework to do that. People talk about the Motor Vehicles Act, and they say that its implementation, is more important. We don't need new laws. Absolutely wrong. Motor Vehicles Act, just by the way it's named, ignores 50% of road users, the non-motorized, road users in our country. It has no provisions to protect or regulate pedestrians, cyclists. There are barely, provisions to protect children on the road. So it doesn't hold road engineers accountable for the quality of construction or deaths that it causes. So the accountability system and the ability to address each of these 4 different issues is completely missing. So what is the need of the hour is a framework under which all of these interventions can be sustained. Of course, on-ground work and implementation is most important. But we can't have officer-driven intervention. We've seen, drunken driving deaths going up and down in cities like Delhi and Bombay. It's entirely officer-driven. You have one officer who comes in, cracks the whip, another officer comes in, priority may be different, things change. There has to be systemic change so that these interventions can sustain themselves. And I think that's the core of the issue that we are facing today, is the lack of that framework that can save 1 million lives in the next decade.
I think Ms. Sonia Sethi has some views on that.
Thank you, Piyush, for your excellent summing up of the day's discussions. If it's any consolation, I'd like to update you on a recent development. All of us here who are working in this sector are aware that as per the Act Section 215, there is provision for a Road Safety Council. For certain reasons, and I must admit it here, in the state of Maharashtra, this council was not playing, the kind of role that it was expected to play. Earlier, it was headed by the Honorable Chief Minister, and because of his multifarious commitments, there was always a shortage of time. And then there was a working sort of group that was made under, a secretary. Very recently, as recent as May 2015, the government modified the composition of this Road Safety Council, and it is now headed by the Honorable Minister for Transport, and the Transport Commissioner is the member secretary of this council. I would like to share with you that, a very valid point that was raised about the multiple players that are involved in road safety and, the absence or the lack of a platform to bring all of them together. What we're doing in Maharashtra, and to just update you on the composition of this council, it has both ministers and head of the administrative departments in the form of secretaries or managing directors, as the case may be, of all the critical departments associated with road safety. Be it, PWD, highways, police, transport, of course, is the parent department, education, health. So all these departments, in fact, we had the first meeting of this newly constituted or reconstituted or freshly constituted committee just yesterday. And what we did, in fact, a couple of crucial decisions which might be of some interest to you. The first is that we undertook a time-bound, framework to draft a road safety policy, and not just stopping at making a policy. I also want to use this platform to share with my friends here that, while you may be aware of the Central Road Transport and Safety Bill, Maharashtra is the first state that has taken the initiative to actually, devise a Maharashtra Mechanically Propelled Vehicles and Road Safety Act 2015. And as I speak, the draft of this act is on the website. It's on our website, and we are inviting comments, suggestions, objections, inputs, feedback from all people, all stakeholders, anybody interested, anybody enlightened who wants to contribute to this. And this platform is available till 30th of June. What we request all of you is, please give us your valuable suggestions on this proposed act. Coming back to the road safety policy, we also want to make it a part of the act so that it has more teeth, it's more effective, and so under the leadership of the Transport Minister, with all these line departments in this body, we want to make it an effective platform for executing road safety initiatives. Another very important decision that we took yesterday was to set up a road safety fund. It's a little nascent or premature for me to divulge the details of how we will raise the fund, but we have some ideas on how we will raise it, and but we are actually hoping to sort of finalize this plan within a month's time, whereby we will come out with a proposal to raise funds for this road security fund, and coming to all the aspects of road safety that everyone here knows about, and it's been talked about in the form of 3 E's: education, enforcement, engineering. We would use this fund to make tangible contributions to all this. And if I may add another E, in the form of equipment. Many a times when we travel abroad and we see sophisticated equipment being used for road safety, and we wonder why we cannot do that here. So, also buying high-tech equipment to ensure road safety will be one of the initiatives that we will be, taking up under this fund. So, Piyush, I hope that this is some consolation to the concern that you have raised. The state is certainly acting on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I have a mic. So if you look at the Indian situation, in terms of safety, we don't need to really have a conference to figure out what's stopping us. If we step out, we'll see the kind of traffic we have. We have habitation right next to the roads, which is quite unique in that sense. You have people sleeping, eating, having shops. If you look at the lanes, at least when you look at the lanes in NCR, there's a lane that comes from the airport and suddenly vanishes into the wall of the flyover. If you're doing lane driving, it'll ensure that you crash into the flyover. If you look at the signages, the middle lane will say that if you turn right, you will reach somewhere. You can't be turning right from the middle lane. So you have to have the signages on the right lane, which leads us to believe that the implementation and perhaps even the understanding of safety is not ingrained as in an institutional way into the government as an organization. And as Piyush had pointed out, there are multiple layers of actors in the government who are responsible for safety. In a similar note, there are multiple dimensions to safety. There are issues around policy, there's issues around infrastructure. The infrastructure has to be built for safety. In terms of implementation, which also leads us to governance and accountability, it's not just a one-time implementation. In terms of behavior change and therefore advocacy, how do we do that? How do we build it into the education system? How do we ensure that truckers who have learned trucking after they have become adults learn what is safety and how to do proper driving? And in terms of also finance, in terms of insurance, in terms of how the financial industry can affect the change that we need in terms of safety, because that leads to a higher savings in terms of insurance outflow. And finally, as we said, in terms of weaving all of this together and making sure that we have an implemented model in place. So with that, I will again request Mrs. Sonia Sethi to give her views on the dimensions of implementation of safety and how should we move forward from an Indian context.
I thought I'd spoken enough. Okay, coming to implementation. Again, coming to the major interventions, as pointed out, starting from what is the mechanism to ensure safe driving. I mentioned a couple of interventions in terms of the appointment system, but that was more process oriented. I think in terms of mechanization to be brought, in terms of making the whole process of becoming a driver more stringent. I think the suggestions and the comments are pretty well received in terms of the observation that perhaps getting a driving license in India vis-a-vis other countries may appear to be easier, but I certainly want to put this on record. Piyush, you made this comment about people getting their driving licenses at home. I can certainly say for Maharashtra this is not the case. At least from 2014 we have introduced this system of online appointments. Everything is computerized. There is no way of bypassing the appointment system or bypassing the system. I mean the systems are in place. I mean they may not be functioning perfectly. We are always open to improvement, but systems are in place. I think also about a little some mention on enforcement on the driving schools. What is the quality of the curriculum, the inputs provided, and I think coming to the enforcement part of training people to be drivers. We need to we have the rules and regulations in place, but I think the systems of oversight and checking the curriculum of driving schools and to examine their infrastructure and the quality of inputs provided by them, that needs to be made more stringent. So these are some of the thoughts on how we can make the whole process of filtering people who are coming to the roads. In fact, I was going through the figures of our first computerized driving test track in Pune, and I was seeing March figures. There was almost this is a rough sort of observation, almost 50% failure rate. So and this again, I mean that test track is, experts say we can do so much more in terms of the software to be developed there, and we can make the whole testing process even more stringent. But even in the current conditions, there was a high rate of failure, which is to say that we are entering into that space where we are making the whole process of enforcement and implementation tougher. So that's one part. And as I said about vehicles, we are again moving from what was a human or allegedly subjective form of declaring a vehicle fit to a system which is more mechanized, which is more stringent. In fact, last week when I went for the inauguration of our inspection and certification center in Nasik, as an aside, the joke was that transporters will probably now take their vehicles outside of Nasik for passing, and they will, and then we said no, that we need to make it, absolutely compulsory for people in the jurisdiction of that RTO, and in fact add more RTO offices to that inspection center. So, slowly things are moving, and while we need to have our enforcement mechanisms to be made more stringent, and I think a lot of hope lies in introducing more technology, to make our roads safer.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, please go ahead, Mr. Ramchandran.
There was a reference made to the road signs that are being put on our roads. Now our roads previously used to be just a 2-lane road, maybe a 4-lane road. Now you find we have got 6 lanes, 8 lanes. Our C-link is an 8-lane like road. Now the signages that we put, they are for information of the person. If he has to turn right and the direction shown is anywhere on the signage, he has to take a lane which he must use for turning right. He cannot, we cannot put all the signs at one place, and that is not expected also. Now once the signs are put, the signages are put, and we say that there is a speed breaker ahead, the driver behavior, as we have seen, is he comes up to the speed breaker, reduces his speed, he gives full value and full honor to the speed breaker. He just crosses the speed breaker and then he speeds up. Now after the speed breaker there is another sign which says that your speed has been reduced and you must now not drive beyond say 30 or 40 or whatever, because there is a school ahead or there is a hospital ahead, and that is the sign that we have already put. One is telling him that there is a speed breaker, and then telling him that after the speed breaker the speed limit is so and so. Now this is not happening really. When the person is beating a speed breaker, he tries to curse the person who has put a speed breaker there, and tries to say, okay, what for this road was built when the speed breakers have been put all along. Now a number of speed breakers, they irritate him. That is another reality of any highway that we come across. But what we can say is, whatever signboards and caution boards have been placed, they are for the benefit and safety of the person who is using the road. On our small length of national highway that we are dealing with between Satara and Kagal, very recently we have changed all the boards to the latest specifications. 1100 of them we have put in a small stretch of 100 kilometers. Now these are definitely going to help safety on the road. Spent more than 86 lakhs only on the signages in that small stretch. Now this is what the efforts are being put by the Indian Roads Congress, by the implementing agencies and everybody who is connected with the road safety during construction and during use. During construction we have got an elaborate way of putting those construction machinery safely parked in the section where the road construction is going on. When we go to the Mumbai-Goa road, you find that widening of that road is currently going on. It is not MSRDC, but it is the National Highway Authority. Now that road is being developed for future use, maybe for the increased traffic after 10 years or 15 years. But when the construction is on, the 2-lane road that was available originally, even that is not available fully to the road user, because there is a construction activity going on, construction machinery moving on to that original width. Now during the phase of construction, it is necessary for the road user to behave more sensibly and with more restraint, as we call it. If that doesn't happen, then during construction, because heavy machinery is moving, labor is moving, and the original road width that was available has to cater to these additional requirements. At that time, definitely a road user has to show more restraint. That is what I would request all the road users to follow.
Right. Mr. Ramchandani, given the experience that you have in the stretch of road that you're managing, why is that other roads are not adopting the same safety standards that you're adopting? What's stopping them from picking up some of these best practices that you have created? And many others like you would have created.
Yeah, see, specialized road construction agencies, they do everything that is required for safety on the roads. But funds is one of the constraints, as everybody knows. And maintenance of the road is another big challenge. Now, what we find on our roads, a number of overloaded vehicles are coming in. We have now started checking this overload at the state border. We are constructing 12 border checkposts, 22 border checkposts. Around 12 are almost ready and in use now. So these 12 or 22 finally, all the border checkposts are going to prevent any entry of overloaded vehicles into the state. But after crossing that border checkpost and offloading that additional load, we again try to find whether there is reloading and overloading. So for that, we try to put way in motion or the way bridges that are currently coming up as automatic weighment during motion itself, I mean without stopping. That type of weighing arrangement at our toll stations at different locations. There also we found after the check at the border, again there is a overloading. And we could detect a number of overloaded vehicles after having entered into the state. Now this type of a behavior, definitely a person who is driving a vehicle, it has got a laden weight and he is overloading it, he is damaging the road, so the repair cost increases, the frequency of damage increases, and the unsafe conditions during the phase of damage to repair is always there. So this type of overloading, if you can avoid, then damage to the road could be minimized. And of course, the accidents and other unsafe conditions that we find, that can be reduced.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Dhara, given your background in managing post-accident scenarios, what are the practices that one should adopt to reduce incidents of fatality post an accident that has happened, and why can't we have safer roads in India?
Basically we in India have far higher mortality as compared to the developed countries, although the severity of accidents is less. And this happens because the chain which I described, what is called as trauma system, exists only in patches. It is well accepted all over the world that survival depends upon how quickly or how efficiently you take a critical patient to the hospital. And till recently we did not have an ambulance system, but 1st March 2013 Government of Maharashtra has made 108 system, which is today available to all the citizens. But my impression is that I don't know how many of you are really aware of this number 108, that if you meet a person who has met with a road traffic accident and you need to dial, because I am not quite sure whether the entire population is really aware of this facility. The second important area where we need to pay an attention is the interface between the pre-hospital phase and the hospital, that is the emergency department of the hospital. Most of the developed countries, emergency department are manned by trained individuals, and it is mandatory for them to undergo some standardized training in the principles of saving lives, that is what we call as resuscitation. In India, generally all medical college hospitals or all corporate hospitals do have these trained persons. But generally, apart from medical colleges and corporate hospitals, these areas are manned by people who take up this assignment as a stopgap arrangement. So there is no policy whereby the training is mandatory for such individuals, and saving lives doesn't require any high-tech or hi-fi knowledge. It's with your basic knowledge and training, it is sufficient to save lives once you know the basic principles. So I think to reduce mortality, attention on these two areas, having an efficient pre-hospital care, fortunately we have it now in the state of Maharashtra, and having an efficient resuscitation of victim once he arrives into the hospital. These are the two areas which need a lot of attention. And as I have said earlier, if you see the availability of specialists required for doing what we call as definitive surgery, we have neurosurgeons, orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons who are well trained. We have most investigations, CT scan, angiography, etc. So that is not an issue. It's certain simple but important steps in the system which need to be, these weak links need to be strengthened.
Thank you, Dr. Ram. Coming to Mr. Kulkarni again, if you could share your views on what's stopping us from having safer roads.
In fact, if you see, we have a very massive problem with us. Every year the fatalities just keep on increasing. Currently I think we have about 150,000 fatalities as of 2013 I think, and the problem is that the fatalities are increasing, it is not decreasing. So which tells us that whatever efforts we are undertaking probably are not meeting, they are not commensurate with the this result that we want. So what we believe that we have to take up this issue, and we have to create skilled manpower through training. I mean, we have to involve related stakeholders, maybe NGOs, or maybe motor driving schools, or maybe in fact we can go down at the society level also, individual societies. And now we have very good methods like mobile apps and all, or we have these e-learning courses. So we can develop some training modules, maybe at the school level, maybe at the college level, and we have to involve all right from the school level at the college level, and we have to expose them to the right method of driving. And these training modules should be made available free of cost, and it should be made in an interesting manner, like some kind of animated thing or so that they feel interested. And training is very vital or very important aspect. I think we are lacking it. Even if you take police itself, I don't know how many police are being trained in these kind of defensive driving or the other aspects of driving related things. So all the related stakeholders should be trained properly, and for that probably we can get some fund from government through this, as madam has said, this road relief fund or something like that, or even many corporates also will be willing to sponsor such kind of activities. So I think this is one important area where all of us should work together to develop training modules and make it as freely available so as to reach to the different levels of society. That's the main area that we have to work, I think.
Thank you. A couple of more observations at this stage is, if I look at again NCR where I stay most of the time, there's a new fashion in terms of paving stones being replaced every other month. If you are from NCR, you will notice that, and that's still fine. That's one aspect to it. But what we find is very strategically 1 or 2 paving stones will be left on the road, and they'll be left forever. Nobody ever caring to change it, to move it. Neither the motorists nor those who are involved in putting up the paving stones, which leads to accidents happening. And clearly the person responsible for the accidents is not the person who was driving the road, the vehicle on the road, or severing away from the paving stone and therefore hitting into another vehicle. And clearly the responsibility lies with whoever had put the paving stone over there. Similarly, if I look at one stretch of road that's within Gurgaon, which is a very smooth road, and suddenly it turns. And where it turns, you find a bunch of accidents happening, especially with very heavy vehicles. because they're moving down at a very high speed. There's no signages in terms of speed limits being reduced, and even if the signages are there, at night it's very difficult to read them, and most of the drivers are illiterate. So there is no curb that is there is no banking of the road that is there, which could have been a potential solution. So there are small little implementation issues that are there which could save lots of lives. And from that perspective, I'll request Piyush Tiwari to put his points of view on how do we ensure that agencies who are involved in putting together the road infrastructure and associated infrastructure with road do it within a certain set of accountable processes and procedures.
Sure. So I think that this starts with setting minimum standards for road construction, for design, and for maintenance. And those minimum standards have to be, publicized. The public has to know about them and understand what to expect from every piece of infrastructure which is being created. The second aspect is, and each of these areas, design, engineering, and maintenance, requires specialized knowledge, training, practices, so on and so forth. And I'm sure there are experts here who can advise specifically on those issues. The second, aspect is training. Is how do you actually ensure that that piece of infrastructure is being built in the way it's been designed or envisaged? So training and monitoring are two very, very crucial, elements to that entire process. Once that piece of infrastructure has been built, then are there ongoing audits that are conducted to ensure that that road or that bridge or that whatever is constructed is in a fit form, is not leading to deaths, and is something which the people can still rely on. And finally, there has to be accountability if any of these three things have not been met or have not been followed. I'll give you a small example. We work with a very senior lawyer in Delhi, and his driver had dropped him home one evening, and he was returning home on his bicycle. He didn't stay very far, and on one stretch of the road in Saket area in Delhi, his bike went into a pothole or something that had been dug up, and he fell on the road, and a truck ran over him. He was killed on the spot. Now, when the police arrived on scene, they looked at who was the bigger vehicle, as they usually do, and they booked the truck driver for negligent driving or whatever it is. But from what we understand from the witnesses who saw, the truck was driving in its own lane, the leftmost lane, at a reasonable speed. It wasn't overspeeding. The bicyclist was also in the same lane, because that's the system we've created, where we have created a conflict between the most vulnerable road user and the heaviest motorized user, which both fight for the same left lane. And the death was caused because of that digging up that was done without any proper barricading and without any signages and all of that. But was the contractor or the civil engineer ever held accountable for that accident? Absolutely not. Another incident happened in Delhi on the Mulchand underpass, where on 3 consecutive days, 4 motorcyclists died because the height of the road in the underpass was increased by 1.5 inches, and they couldn't navigate that stretch, and they would fall. It was a high-speed road, and vehicles would run over them. Again, was there any signage? Was there any accountability? Absolutely not. So unless actually we create systems that ensure this accountability, people will come, they'll construct roads, they'll use shoddy material, whatever they have to do, however it is done, and they'll move on. And then it will be us who are suffering from those things. And so unless we fix accountability, I doubt if any of these things of setting standards and all of that will really have the last mile effect that we intend to have.
Right, thank you. If I step back and I look at the kind of steps that are being taken, most of them are very four-wheeler focused. So if you look at cars, we're having even more stringent crash tests being put into place, which will make the cars safer and safer. But as we all know, the larger and by an order of magnitude larger number of fatalities happen because of two-wheelers. So if we have a seat belt in the car, there is no seat belt to be had in a two-wheeler. And obviously people choose two-wheelers because it's much more cost effective, it's cheaper, it's affordable, one can buy a two-wheeler, one can't buy a four-wheeler. The closest attempt we had to making four-wheelers more affordable was the Tata Nano, which obviously could not maintain the price points. And therefore, one of the conversations that has been going on in this country has been the introduction of quadricycles, which will not be cars because they will not have the same safety levels, but they will be much cheaper, and therefore will enable a lot of the two-wheelers to start buying four-wheelers, which by definition is far more safer. And however, we still find some headwinds to it. So, ma'am, if I could have your views on why we can't have vehicles which are more suited for the Indian population, which are not as dangerous as two-wheelers are, but they may not necessarily conform to the global standards, but are safer than two-wheelers are.
Certainly not my area of specialization. I think it's for the, the industries department that, heavy industries and automobile industry department that deals with it. But just an interesting sort of observation, though not directly linked with your question. Just recently, on 9th of June, Government of India has issued an advisory for e-rickshaws. A very interesting concept of, because I think this whole area which may not be directly related to road safety, but overall, the environmental aspects of using vehicles. So, in fact, we are now in the process of formulating policies for, this special category of vehicles which, in Maharashtra, 4 cities have been identified: Greater Mumbai, Pune, Nasik, Nagpur, where we will be using the, and I think certainly, a step safer than two-wheelers, so to speak, and cost-effective means of transport. The respective regional transport authorities have to work out the modalities of the routes where they will ply, and all those sort of processes have to be gone through, and but that's like an interesting observation. But in terms of actually designing, and I think that's probably a different ministry that
Sure.
I can add something.
Yes.
About this two-wheeler safety on our roads, on the highways particularly, the Government of India and IRC guidelines say that when the road has got only a two-lane structure, then we go for a two-lane with paved shoulders on both sides. So the berms are paved so that we have got an additional width available. Now both these two main lanes are being used by the heavy vehicles and the four-wheelers and whatever. So that additional width of the paved shoulder on either side, that's around 1.5 meters, in some cases 2.5 meters also. That is available. So that is marked with a edge line, a continuous edge line, and the two-wheelers can use that area safely for navigating that highway section, which may be going from his residence to the place of work or whatever, but he has to use the section of the highway. So there we are providing this type of a facility for safety of two-wheelers. And helmet, of course, that is the important replacement of a seat belt for a two-wheeler. So that is what has been already specified in so many guidelines and so many rules. Now about one aspect of that easy availability of those licenses, as was being discussed a few minutes earlier, I found that the new particular safety bill 2015, which is I think yet to be finalized, the draft stage, it says that if a person has got 2 licenses, both the licenses will stand invalid. So more than one you can't afford. So any of you who has got more than 2 or more than 1, better surrender them.
Right. So continuing with you, Mr. Ramchandani, what are the 2 biggest things that you would advise that one should adopt in the Indian circumstances as highest priority to reduce road fatalities and increase road safety?
The highest priority that we must adopt to increase the road safety and reduce the number of accidents that we observe today is, Marathi I will say, Laukar Nigha, Saukash Ja. So go at a very reasonable speed on the road. The road is meant for the use at a particular speed. Our C-Link, my own driver drives at 80 kilometers per hour. Every time I have to tell him, I have put up a board of 50 kilometers per hour. If you are not following that, then who is going to follow? Every day I have to tell him. But he is used to that. Ceiling, sir, हमने बनाया है, अरे हमने बनाया है तो हमको देख के और लोग भी fast जाएंगे. So you go at a speed which is specified there, it is 50 kilometers. On our eastern freeway, it is 60 kilometers. So after the speed breaker, don't speed up again. These are the things that we must follow on our roads. Roads, another important thing that you pointed out was, there are paving blocks kept on the road at some locations, and they have no light or reflector or whatever. They are many a times kept by the truck drivers for repairing their wheel or whatever, and they leave it as it is. They just drive fast, and the next person who comes, he meets with an accident. So that is what we have observed. The road constructor has nothing to do with that. The road was constructed long back, but this is the user which is using it for the purpose for which it is not supposed to be used. So he just keeps a jack or something on that block and leaves it like that. Of course, there are instances when there are paver blocks which are loosened because of wheel loads or because of monsoon or whatever. They need to be repaired in time. I fully agree. But there are some instances like this also.
Sure. Dr. Dharap, two of your views on two top priorities that we should adopt to reduce road fatalities.
And I think prevention is extremely important, and the safe practices must come as a habit to everybody. Many times we see that two-wheelers, people riding two-wheelers carry a helmet just to show to the policeman. It's like their bangle on their hand that I'm carrying it, don't catch me. But they must understand that it is for their own safety. And today, if we see the patient load, the brain injuries and patient, that is the major load of major trauma patients. And you can, to do surgery for your fractures, and patient can walk again. But once you lose your brain cells, they just don't regrow, and it's a big thing. So I think education to follow the traffic rules, that is the most important.
Thank you. Mr. Kulkarni, your views on what are the top two things we should be doing?
First of all of us must comply with the regulatory requirement. That's the foremost important thing that I think should be followed. And second thing is, we should respect the other fellow users of the roads also. We always have tendency, once we start using a vehicle, either we drive ourselves or driver drives and we are there, we feel the road is for us. We always curse the other fellow, he is not giving us side, then thereby we start some kind of anxiety, and then what we see always the road rage accidents, incidences happens. So we have to respect the other road users also. So we have to use the road very responsibly, and already we have a huge population, we have huge vehicle density also. So we must follow the road discipline, I think. So these two things are very important.
Thank you. Mr. Piyush Tiwari, your views on the top two things?
So I think shorter term, the two things should be enforcement and engineering. These are two things that can be the immediate focus area. There are a lot of roads that can be fixed through very cost-effective minor interventions, made safer. Cemented barriers can be removed and replaced with reinforced steel cables. Central medians, instead of having a drain, can have a grassy median, so it provides an opportunity to recover. Various things can happen on that level across roads, not just on highways or expressways, but even city roads. Enforcement is the other area where significant change in behavior can come. We just heard that people carry their helmets on their arm. Now I really wonder whether they don't know really that if their head hits the road they will not get hurt. I think everybody knows that. But what gets them to change their behavior is the policeman who's standing on the road, because of which they put the helmet or the seatbelt on. So enforcement, we can't educate the entire country overnight, but we can tighten the enforcement that exists to ensure some compliance to safety standards. Longer term, I think as we move ahead, The Road Transport and Safety Bill, which the government is intending to bring, needs to be strengthened. The latest version of the bill, which has been sent to the state governments on 9th of June, which is last week, is an extremely diluted version of the bill. It has been diluted under pressure from various lobbies, admitted by the minister himself on 2nd of June on TV. So there needs to be a strengthening of that legislation, and there needs to be passage of that. And then finally, longer term, the second priority has to be enforcement and implementation of that legislation, which will essentially create that framework that I was talking about. If it is enacted in the, if it is strengthened and enacted properly, it will hopefully provide that framework which can address the issue longer term by creating these systems for licensing, training, enforcement, engineering, trauma care, so on and so forth. So these are the two things, shorter term and longer term, as I feel is the need of the hour.
Your views on what are the top two things that we should be doing on top priority?
Well, I think enough has been said on awareness and enforcement, and as the agency which is primarily responsible for enforcement, I think what people would like to hear from me, rightly so, is what are we going to do about it? And I think that this is a platform for me to ensure that certainly the concerns raised about the relative easier form of filtration of bringing drivers to the road, all aspects of that needs to be looked at as seriously as possible from our side, and I assure you that we will be doing that to the best of our ability. Secondly, about enforcement, and I think last but not the least, when I was talking about the Road Safety Council and the Transport Commissioner being the lead agency for implementing that, I think that's an excellent platform to actually get the 7 or 8 departments who have a very crucial role to play in this. And I think it's very important for us at this point of time to understand that unless we have a concerted effort, on all sides. I mean, Piyush just mentioned that we can't educate people. I have a slightly different view. I mean, one of the conversations that we had in the council meeting yesterday was to actually speak to the education secretary and say that, of course, I mean, schools are doing their bit, to educate young people on safety standards, but can we have a compulsory, period, stipulated only for road safety? And I think that, I mean, while, it's not to say that, we don't take our responsibility of enforcement seriously, but education is equally important. And I think all these multi-pronged efforts need to be made to ensure, to have a holistic view on road safety. And this is something which, we discussed about preparing a common subject material, the content, for these kind of, I mean, I'm sure, various forms of literature are available already, but we need to, make it more standardized and then to make it a part of our formal education system. So I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach, and, I'm probably not answering your question the way you expected me to do, but I think rather than, spelling out do's and don'ts, which I think my colleagues here have very ably done, I think it's more important, for me to take a cue from all the suggestions given, and then to sort of, say that, yes, both as the department responsible primarily for road safety and also as the department which is now the lead agency under the council to actually bring all other agencies to the platform, I think we need to take our role more seriously, and that's what we intend to do.
Sure, thanks. So clearly you've got one of the most challenging roles, so it's quite an uphill task to affect the changes that we're talking about. Having said that, if I pick up just one of the issues that the co-panelists had mentioned, which is how do we enforce, let's say, helmet being worn while two-wheelers are driving. Now clearly, from a technological perspective, you've got solutions wherein you can have a video camera to check every single scooter and every single mobile and see whether the rider and the pillion rider is wearing a helmet or not. The unfortunate part is these technologies are only theoretical, they don't exist. Because all of these technologies have been created by the Western world for four-wheelers, because that's the dominant traffic that we have. And whoever has a two-wheeler in, let's say, a place like US, always definitely wears helmet, because they know it's for themselves, it's not for the law. It's only in India that the helmet is worn for the law, or they're worn as an ornament in the hand. And clearly what we would need to do is build technologies which are required from an Indian perspective. The other observation I would like to put in addition to all that the eminent panelists had put in, was if I look at, let's say, the Delhi traffic again, which is one of the most rowdy traffic, if I can use the word, but the moment you see and observe them on, let's say, NH8, which goes across Gurgaon, you will see that there is no more honking happening, that most of the cars are actually driving in a lane. If you look at Delhi, which doesn't have any new infrastructure, I'm sure it has probably the highest per capita honking in the world. But if you just go to a newer, better built infrastructure, suddenly the behavior also changes. So perhaps a better built infrastructure has a role to play in bringing in more safety and better road sense to the users. With that, since we're running out of time and I'm sure there are lots of questions to be asked, I'll open up the floor and invite questions. I can see a hand over there. Do you have a question? Yes, please.
Thank you. Is it on? Thank you very much. My name is Ajay Pandya. I'm from Science Welfare Forum. Thank you for this opportunity. I've heard all these 3 sessions in very minutely. Most of the things what we are talking as of now is what we are going to do from now onwards in the future. I don't hear anything what we have to say what we are going to do right now. That is very, very important, because the way I have been hearing is, I feel that till now nothing has happened what our past authorities or the people have done for this road safety. So I think there is a scope and there is a kind of implementation has to be taken for something which we need to do today or maybe tomorrow. I would like to raise some points which I think some of the panel people have already raised the issue. The first thing I would like to bring is the motorcycle, as you said, 2-wheelers. We have a rule which says the rider as well as the pillion rider both needs to wear the helmet. But now when I see on the roads, the police never ask the pillion rider why he has not worn a helmet. He says, helmet pehna hai, driver ne jaane do. This is actually, we are spending double the time, double the advertisements money, because I think after 2 years, maybe we start saying the pillion rider should now wear a helmet now. So we start all the thing all over again. So it is better we start the same things right away that both are supposed to wear. It's already a law. Why we say the rider should wear and not the pillion rider? Similarly, the cars, the co-passenger needs to have a seat belt. I've lived my past 10 years from 2002 to 2013 in the US. So I know the laws of those land, and we have been trying to, I would say, giving examples of US at the moment, of UK, Netherlands, but we don't have those infrastructure what we have over here. So it's very hard to bring in those kind of technologies and trying to implement over here. Like I saw some clippings which were made what somebody was driving a motorcycle and he goes on the pavement, but the pavement, there is nobody on the pavement. Then I see a single footpath in whole of Bombay where there is not a single pedestrian or a footpath guy who is not walking on the street. So the moment somebody goes on the footpath, he will knock 2-3 guys right away. So all these things are good when you see, but in practicality, I don't see that those examples are in true life going to happen. Now, the few observation, I might take a bit of time, but this is my observation. Like the 2-wheelers, the gentleman said that we have the left lane for the 2-wheelers when there are 2 lanes. I was driving the car on the Western Express Highway. I had left about 2.5 feet from the middle of the pedestrian. And I had a motorcycle just going from my right hand side, just 2.5 feet. And he passed at maybe about 60-70 kilometers. Now, God forbid, if I hit him or he hits me, I will be at the wrong stage because it will show that I'm bypassing him from the left hand side. But technically it was he who went on the right hand side, which was not supposed to be. So if we have the 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers always ride towards the left hand side of the road and towards the footpath, that way those now new cars which are going at the 70, 80, 90 kilometers, they are free to move around. And the third and final thing, fourth, whatever it is And the final thing is I see the most of the street lights are right at the junction of the intersection. So there is no buffer place for anybody if he's driving for, say, maybe certain length and he sees a green street light. Okay, so he goes too fast to cross the street light. But by the time he reaches there, it turns into yellow and then to red. So he doesn't have a buffer. So he bypasses the red light and then somebody coming from the other direction, he bangs him. And most of the pedestrian crossing are before the street light rather than they have to be after the street light. So these are the few observations which I feel if we can take care of right now without spending any dime. I don't think that needs a very big amount of infrastructure. It needs a will to implement this thing. Saying that, I thank you so very much for giving me this opportunity.
Would anybody like to add? Okay, so I think those are comments and they're noted.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Just a minute. I would like to say, and this is just a remark, probably Mumbai is the only city where I can see heavy vehicles are flying all over the city all of the time. And can we do something for this? Probably if the authorities can think that probably this can be banned, probably the traffic will be reducing the traffic on the road by minimum 15 to 20%. And I can guarantee on any road you will see probably the water tankers or the essential commodity tankers or the cement trucks are being, flying and being used all over the city all the time. And probably this is the only city I have seen. I have never seen this kind of vehicles in Delhi or maybe other places. So this is what my request is.
Would you like to take that? Okay, so we'll just note down all the questions and we'll answer it then.
Yeah, with one of the issues raised by Mr. Tiwari about corruption, my question is for Madam here. We are all aware that around 15-20 days back, one of the police constable, I think I would rather say a whistleblower cop, who had to resign his job out of frustration because he said that he's unable to work in the kind of atmosphere of corruption he's facing. We are all aware about this. Just 15-25 days back. And how he exposed a syndicate and an excess of how the money is being transferred from level A to A, B, C, D and all. So just wanted to ask Madam that is there any kind of mechanism whereby RTO officers are maybe asked to make a declaration of their assets in a specially designed format? And contrary to this, I would also ask that is there any incentivizing or a rewarding program for better performances of the RTO officers? So I think if it is not a suggestion that such an initiative can really help to a first step of road safety.
Just to clarify, this particular specific instance that you're mentioning
Yeah.
pertaining to the police department.
Yes.
So I don't represent the police.
No, I mean,
but the
yeah.
observation is
Yeah,
well
yeah,
taken, and
maybe.
I can respond to that.
Yeah.
So just coming to corruption, first and foremost, I mean, we all are aware of, the fact that corruption, one way of dealing with corruption is technology and, putting these systems into place that I was talking about. Somebody said, we are talking about the future, but I think it's very important because if we want to make long-term changes and to actually, plug these loopholes, my friend here very rightly said that initiatives should not be officer driven, and I completely agree with him. We need to build the systems, and sometimes system buildings take some time and effort. Just talking about the RTO system, at least the two major initiatives, for example, that I talked about, our aim is to actually minimize the human intervention in the whole process. If you can read between the lines of what I was saying, the whole idea was that, for example, I mean, issuing licenses and registration are, say, two major tasks that the RTO department performs. And if we make the human contact or human intervention absent or minimal, I think it would be a sort of a big check on some of the allegations, that have been raised. For example, to just give you a flavor of what we intend doing, if you visit our computerized driving test track in Pune, the entire driving test is conducted through the whole computerized system, where there are 3 tracks through which a 75 seconds test is conducted, and the marks come out in the form of a slip, and if out of 50 you score 40, the RTO has to give you the go ahead. So basically, it's not that we're not working on this. So in fact, the ultimate ideal is to make this department as redundant as possible. I mean, that would be the success of all these initiatives. So I think we are taking these kind of systemic again, just to give you a flavor, and my friend here will say, why are you talking about the future? But the future is very near in terms of, say, the Right to Services Act, where we are going to put X number of services online, and each one of us is responsible to deliver them in a certain time frame. So I think these systemic changes in terms, will actually have a long-term and a permanent solution to a problem which can only be temporarily checked by an officer in overdrive, because that will probably last only so long, and again it can never have 100% effect. You see, the 100% plugging of this problem can only come with making these major systemic changes. And I hope I'm not sounding theoretical, because ultimately, this is so, and that's where we are working at, which is not to say that the ACB does not exist and all the other agencies which are appointed by the government to check these malpractices. I mean, they are there and they are for a purpose.
My idea actually was that going stringent can also open backdoor entries. This is what I was trying to say. So stringent policies with monitoring, I think, is required. This is what I was trying to say.
Take the other question on bypassing of the trucks. Okay, fine.
Thank you so much.
I think one of the co-panelists has to take a flight, so I guess we need to stop here, except that if you would like to put your views on the question that were asked, Mr. Ramchandani.
I was only trying to suggest that when a license is available, and it needs to be checked frequently whether it is a valid license when a person is actually using the road. So I would suggest that at all our toll stations, the RTO should make an effort to check the licenses, because the vehicle has to anyway stop there for paying toll, and in that fraction of time can be checked whether the license is valid or otherwise.
Sure. Anybody else would like to comment on the questions that have been asked? Okay, thank you so much. We had a very, very erudite conversation. I'm really sorry, one of the... Okay, quick 30 seconds. Yeah. I think the seconds add up and somebody will...
Mr. Ramchandani, I just want to inform you that you are very important for us. So my request is either you change your driver or let him not drive till the time he changes his riding habits or driving habits.
That's correct.
So thank you so much for for this very, very exciting and intellectually stimulating discussion that we had. I think all of us gained a lot from this conversation, at least I did. And I hope we get to have many more such conferences on this topic, which is extremely important, given the rate at which traffic is going up in the roads in India. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to request our panel members to please remain on stage for just a second. I do believe Mr. Piyush Tiwari has a flight to catch. But may I please invite Mr. Sushant Nayak, who is the National Head, Government Affairs for Tata Motors, to please come on stage. And firstly present memento to Mr. Piyush Tiwari, founder and CEO of Save Life Foundation. Can we have a round of applause? May I now request him to also present the mementos to the rest of the panel members, to Mr. S.N. Ramchandani, to Ms. Sonia Sethi, to Professor Dr. Satish Dharav, to Mr. N.M. Kulkarni, and to our session chair, Dr. Jayajit Bhattacharya. One last time, I'm also going to request our panel members to please come together for a group photograph. If I may request all the panel members to please come together for a group photograph as well. Well, we've gained some very wonderful perspectives from our speakers through the panel discussions. I'm going to invite Ms. Sonia Sethi, Transport Commissioner, Motor Vehicle Department, to also share her remarks with regard to the summit as well as the panel.
I don't want my friends here to miss their flight. So all I will say is please visit our website, and we welcome your comments on the State Act. As I said that the time frame is till 30th of June. We have a very tight schedule in the sense that we hope to put it up in the upcoming monsoon session of the state legislature. Somebody mentioned about some perception of dilution in the Government of India Act. Let me take the liberty of saying that Maharashtra is the first state that is taking an initiative to prepare its own act. While we do not have any sort of plans of, in the sense that while none of our sections and provisions will be, will contradict the Government of India Act, what we are actually aiming to do is two things. One is to fill in the gaps in the Government of India Act. So if you think that people who live in Mumbai, people who live in Maharashtra, who feel that, at least for our state, we need to have more teeth or more enforcement in certain areas, this is one opportunity for you. And secondly, I think a lot of things which are, say from the Government of India perspective, just this question which is currently being raised about what we call the aggregators, the private taxi aggregators. So we are actually proposing to not just come out with a policy or notification, but also make it a part of the Act, so that we bring, these relatively new models of entrepreneurship within, government oversight. So I think it's an excellent opportunity, and I'm actually grateful that this conference was held at this point of time, for you to come up with suggestions on how we can make some of these initiatives more enforceable through the Act. So please participate, give your comments on our website, and if your comment, we will try and sort of see how many we can incorporate, but also be ready to spare some time in case we call you for further discussions, and also, not give us not just your thoughts, but also your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, while we come to the end of the first edition of the summit, we all know that we're always headed towards prosperity and growth. If around us the flyovers, the metro rails, the tracks, everything is growing in number, so do we wish to grow in number. This is the first edition, so firstly, let's have a huge round of applause to thank our speakers as well as you, the audience, for being part of this wonderful edition. And as we all came together to discuss some very, very pertinent issues as well as matters, we're going to put it across to our organizers as well. And with that, we also look forward to meeting up with all of you in our second edition, which of course we shall get in touch with you with. We request you humbly to please fill in the feedback forms. Please hand it over. Your feedback will be very valuable to all of us. And with that, I wish you a great evening. Please do take time off and please connect with the speakers one last time again. Thank you so much. Take care.